It's the NUKA-COLA Lounge, presented by the Triple S League.
NUKA-COLA was a popular drink in the pre-war era, and still is today.
Hey everybody, welcome to the NUKA-COLA Lounge podcast. My name is Asheninity, and I'm here with Cybsidian as always, and today we've got Jamie Catalyst with us. And I'm about to make the two of you both very jealous. Played Breath of the Wild for a couple hours last night.
Did you now?
Freaking fantastic. Very interesting, very, very fun new take on the Zelda series and the whole genre. I quite enjoyed it. It's very different, but still very much the same. So, yeah, I had a lot of fun.
Well, that's good, because it's one of our talking points today, is the drama that's surrounding a certain reviewer and Breath of the Wild.
Because that's what the world needs. Lots more drama. I'm always thinking, man, there's not enough drama going on.
Yeah, especially when it comes to reviews and people wanting somebody to be hung and, like, oh my goodness. So, Jamie, you heard about this, right?
Yeah, I heard all about it. I watched the Know about it.
So, normally I would take the side of a reviewer doing reviews. However, in this one particular case, I cannot defend Jim Sterling's position because of what I know of Jim Sterling. If you've been watching Jim Sterling for a few years, you know that he hates certain types of games, that he has zero respect for certain types of games, and those opinions affect his score that he gives a game when he reviews a game. And that is just very unprofessional. And he's done it probably about 3-4 times in the past, and each time I've absolutely just been kind of really turned off from it. If I am not a fan of a particular type of genre or a particular type of game, I should not be, giving it a score, because that is very, if you.
It's like if you hate horror movies. If you hate horror movies,
yeah,
and you don't like watching them, and then you decide to review one. It's like, yeah, it's this horror movie. I give it a 0 because I hate horror movies. Well, that doesn't make sense. Like,
yeah, it's completely not justified for the people involved, for the game, for the industry itself. And this is kind of what affected him. So he hates repair systems in games, where an item is damaged and then it breaks, and then you have to either get a new one or you constantly have to keep repairing them. He doesn't like that. I personally love that. I personally like micromanaging your inventory, and I do kind of wish that you could take 2 of one thing and kind of make it a little bit stronger, but I see the logic in why that's not in each type of game. But regardless, it's it's fun to me to do that kind of stuff. But at the same time, it's very similar to in Fallout and the Elder Scrolls games, you have the lock-picking minigame. Well, there's some people who hate that lock-picking minigame, but it's you can avoid it if you want to, and there's mods that completely remove it. So there's not very much of a reason for somebody to trash a game based on one minigame mechanic within the game.
A lock-picking minigame, there's ways around that. Like, how do you avoid an item or a weapon repair? I mean, I have a hard time calling that a minigame. I mean, I guess that's one way to put it.
It's common within the kind of survival open world games. There are a lot of those types of games that don't have it, but you will find that as a kind of a common feature within some of them. Well,
I agree, but they had it in that was a part of Fallout 3. And it was my least favorite part of Fallout 3. I mean, I hated having to carry 50 hunting rifles around so that I could repair the one I was using. It just didn't. And I mean, I get there's ways you could do it better than that, but I like that they replaced it with a modding system in Fallout 4. But it's like how, I mean, I get there's personal preference involved. Like, you like playing those types of games with where you have to eat and sleep and go to the frickin' bathroom. Me, I'm like, no, I'm suspending disbelief and just assuming that my character is eating when I'm not looking, right? I just want to play the game. Now, I don't know what Jim Sterling said. I'm not familiar with all the controversy on this, but
he basically based the majority of his review around that one concept, and then said that one concept lowered the score of the game from what he believes a 10 being an almost never given out score, because that would be a perfect game, and a 7, which he thinks means that it's still one of the best games that he played all year. Whereas most people wouldn't, most reviewers wouldn't do it that way. Most reviewers are like, a 7 is a very, it's a really good game. It's slightly higher than expectations. 5 is like, we're really disappointed in this title, and then anything lower than a 5 is just insulting.
So what was his final score that he gave it?
It was a 7 out of 10.
I think a 7 out of 10.
Yeah. But because he was one of the few to give it that low of a thing, and because of the way that the Metacritic scoring system works, it happened to push the game down from a 98 to a 97. And people...
I gotta be honest, I don't see what all the drama's about with that. That's still a pretty good score.
Because there's so very few games that hold a 98, and the fan base thought that this definitely deserved it. Now, from what I've played, what I've seen, what I've known, is that the game does deserve a 98, I would say. It does deserve one of the highest accolades as far as like games released, and I think that it's I think as far as what they have for the technology and for what the platform they released it on, and for being a launch title, for all of this stuff, I think it is a perfect game. I don't think you could get any more perfect than what they have put together within the realm of logical understanding. My personal score for the game is like a 9.5, and that's because it is pretty much perfect. There's only a handful of things that they could have made slightly better with a lot more play testing, which was in their power to do, but they didn't because they wanted to kind of keep it, a little bit more under wraps, that kind of thing. Plus, he admitted in his review that he didn't play it, post like the halfway mark of the game. So he's not even dealing with he's bitching about how much his weapon breaks, and he's using gray weapons. He's not even using the rare weapons or the ancient weapons or the artifact weapons in the game, the Master Sword, for example, that doesn't break.
Okay. I think it is fair to, like, if there's a mechanic that's frustrating you for the first half of the game, I think that it's fair to give that some criticism. Like, to take that into account in your review for half of the game. If it was like the first 5% or 10% of the game, that would be different. But I want to get Jamie's take on this. But the other thing I want to say is, yes, the whole weapons breaking and having to maintain things mechanic, it is a commonly used mechanic that is common in genres like open world survival games. But we also have to look at this in the context of this being a Legend of Zelda game, which are not traditionally that type of game. And they don't appeal necessarily only to gamers that like that kind of thing. And so, again, this is completely just going off of, hearsay. I haven't heard his specific comments on it. But it does seem, it is a little strange to have that in a Zelda game. And playing it myself, I didn't find it frustrating. And actually, it adds a bit of tension when it's like you're fighting some monsters, and suddenly it's like your club is badly damaged. It's like, oh crap. Now, one of the nice things is it delivers a really powerful blow on its last strike when, like, just before it breaks. You can also throw your weapons, which is freaking awesome.
Yeah,
your weapon's about to break, so you just take aim and chuck it, and it delivers a critical hit. I really like it, but it is kind of weird, to have to be carrying around about 7 weapons in case the one you're using breaks. But anyway, what's your take on all this, Jamie?
I think on both sides, it got blown out of proportion. I agree. The fact that he docked, 3 to 4 points from a total score he could have given the game just because there was one thing he didn't like. It seemed to me like what the no said. He was just trying to grab attention. He just put a different score than most other people gave because he knew people were going to see that he gave a different score and were going to look at what he wrote. He was just trying to grab people's attention by nitpicking, like clickbait almost. And then, but I also think that the people that are just it's oh, how dare he lower the one score of it, we're gonna kill him, I think they're also being, a little too much. I think everyone should just calm down, just play the game and just calm down.
Everybody just needs to chill the frick out. Yeah, it's like...
They also talked about, I don't know if you heard, but even before, because it's ironic, because a couple weeks ago there were people that hadn't played the game that were giving it a bad score just to lower the score because they didn't believe it was that good. And then there were people that started trying to balance out the score by giving it a perfect score because they believed it deserved that score. So it's like, it's been reviewer wars here for this game. Everybody just needs to calm down. Just play the game. Just stop fighting with each other.
Why do people take
tiny nitpicks.
Why do people take these things so personally? Like, you're a fan of something. Okay, I get that. And if someone is unfairly criticizing it, I see the desire to be like, well, hold on, you're not giving it a fair shake. But at the same time, like, if there's somebody online bashing my favorite game or my favorite show or something, I don't know. I don't feel that compulsion to need to go in and fix that. I just kind of move on. Be like, well, you're lost, buddy, whatever. Like,
I wish more people would do that.
What's the... Like, and so if Jim Sterling is getting threats and stuff, these people turning to threats online, just don't do that, people. That's disgusting. I don't care if you mean it or not. It's disgusting to do.
Yeah, death threats should never be given. Not ever, because people do that too often. And then sometimes things happen and they're like, oh no, did I cause this? Well, guess what, Budface? Maybe you should have thought about that before you spewed death threats to someone that might or might not have taken that a bit too personally. I don't know, there's no reason for it whatsoever.
The one other thing with this is that I do have to point out is that Jim's not a media whore, but he has been controversial for fun. And also for the sake of getting more ratings, and he's done that more than once. And you have to realize that it's it's his. Everybody has to do so at some level. Everybody has to kind of be like a little bit like that from time to time. It's part of the game of being in media. But in this case, I think that he kind of stepped over his bounds a little bit, and to me that's just it's like he overreached there when he should have A, expected this, and B, he's kind of got no excuse because this is loved so much by everybody.
That's the thing. You put your opinion out there online, you accept the consequences of people criticizing you for your criticism of something. It's kind of how it works. As long as we're not devolving to the state of being like, ugh, you no like me game, me kill you.
Yeah. As long as you're not caveman style. So, okay, in other news, this came out a little while ago. I do want to punch this out. So Civ 6 had some DLC drop a couple weeks ago. I've finally been able to pretty much play a whole game as the Australians, and been able to play it now with its upgraded some of the big bug fixes that were in at launch. And I gotta say, it's so good right now. It's so good. I can waste so much time in that game, but I'm really happy, Sid, that you're finally including some civs that are major world players in today's world. You're finally starting to include some of them. Maybe we can see a little bit of Canada, eh?
Maple syrup and all that.
Well, it's funny to me how two of the biggest countries in the world, Australia and Canada, have never, ever, ever, ever been in a Civ game, except as like these tiny little city-states that take up like the basically a small island's worth of territory. And in Civ 6, there is Toronto. Toronto is a mini Civ state, and it does give out one of the best bonuses in the game, period. And it's something that people will fight over. But at the same time, it's like, oh, you gotta be kidding me, because it's, you know, there's a lot of countries that he's just never touched, and then there's other countries that he's put in every bloody game that, you know, they were a micro blip on the screen of history, you know, 4,000 years ago. But it's good to see that we're starting to, hopefully we will see some more.
I haven't ever been able to play Civ. I have a friend who loves the game series, though. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to play any of the newest one because his computer couldn't support it. He had it, but his computer couldn't run it. It made him very sad. But the only thing I was going to mention, but it was Mass Effect news, and you guys might or might not already know about it. The fact that there was a review that leaked for Mass Effect Andromeda, or at least some tidbits of the review that leaked, because somebody got their hands on it a little bit earlier, but they weren't, it's not supposed, the review wasn't supposed to come out yet, but some of it leaked, and they were talking about it on the Know, and the tidbits that they mentioned, like, I'm not gonna say any of what was mentioned in the review, but I will say that it was overwhelmingly positive. So, I was just gonna say that, hope for Andromeda for anybody that still had doubts.
That's good to hear, and I mean, it's not surprising. I think that it looks like they've put a lot of effort into making this a really solid game. There's also news out today that they have over 1,200 speaking characters in the game, so gives you some sort of a scope of how massive this title's going to be. And it almost doubles how many speaking characters there were in Mass Effect 3. And I wonder how many actors that is.
I'm hoping it's more than 5 or more than 10. Yeah, they have been pretty good with that in the past, unlike other companies who we won't name names because we understand the limitations of, especially the voice acting thing. I was speaking with at a conference. I was speaking with one of the heads of a very famous company, and I told him, and I asked him, I said, why don't you guys incorporate more of your community into some of the voice recording roles? And he goes, oh, we can't, because we're part of we have an actors union agreement that we have to use a certain number of actors for a certain number of hours for each project, in where we would hire a main big star to do some voice lines. They're going to eat up a big budget, but then we are also forced by the union to do a bunch of these minor actors, and then to pay them X amount, and then we're not allowed to bring in anybody who's not in the union. I'm like, that includes promotional a promo thing? And he's like, yeah, we can do that, but we have to pay this and that and this to the union. And I'm sitting there going, dude, you're a smaller studio than most of the other AAAs. Why are you even using them? You haven't gotten in a famous actor for a long time. Why don't you just go independent? And he goes, well, we've thought about it, but then the union would probably try and boycott most of our products. And I was just sitting there going, you gotta be kidding me.
So even game development is political.
It's not political. It's union. I
don't mean political.
Red tape. Yeah,
that's what I mean when I say political. It's
and it's just why? It's really frustrating to see that, because if you especially you look at some of the modding communities, there are some amazing actors who will do amazing sets of lines and just give them away because they love the genre or because they love the type. Now, you don't want to encourage everybody to give away everything for free, but there's a point where you can utilize some of that stuff. And then, maybe they give them a free copy or help them jumpstart their career in audio, voiceovers or whatever. In other non-gamer or entertainment news, I have just come across a study in which cocaine addiction leads to buildups of irons and other unhealthy chemicals in the brain.
Cocaine is bad for you.
No.
Thanks, I learned that in Dare like 20 years ago.
I mean, I kind of figured from the amount of overdoses and the amount of rapid addiction that it causes, but yeah, good for you guys to point that out.
Because there are 10 good reasons for not playing in traffic, but we've just discovered an 11th one. This was one of the most bizarre things I've read in a while. The Big Bang Theory is getting a prequel. No, I'm not talking about the model, the cosmological model. I'm talking about the TV show, obviously. I doubt there's going to be a prequel for the actual Big Bang Theory, but you never know. We'll see. But the show, The Big Bang Theory, there's going to be a prequel coming next season. Focusing on Sheldon Cooper as a child growing up in Texas. And so I don't know, maybe you'll find that very relatable, Jamie. I don't know. So that should be interesting. I can't think of another TV show, especially a sitcom. Maybe I shouldn't say TV show, but sitcoms. Sitcoms get spin-offs. We don't usually think of them as getting sequels or prequels, but they... has there been anything else has there been any other shows?
Friends tried that with runoffs, and there's been a couple other shows that have tried that with runoffs, and it's never ended very well.
Like spin-offs, right? Like Friends ends, and then they make a show focusing on Joey. So technically, kind of a sequel. But has there ever been a prequel for a sitcom before? I can't think of anything.
Not that I can think off the top of my head. I think this idea is terrible, and I think they're gonna end up pooching themselves a little bit here, because they can't really go anywhere with some of the plot points and the finer, like, he's already talked in depth about it. There's very few surprises that you could throw up, and then just based on the technology at the time and the game stuff, you're getting into like really like microcosm nerdy stuff, and I'm just throwing this out now. I don't think it'll be a success. I don't think it'll last more than 2 seasons.
I bet you $100 they're gonna throw in every single cliche they can find about Texas that's not even remotely true.
Yeah, that too, and that's very disappointing too. Is that that they're gonna throw in every possible, like, oh hey look at this cliche, oh hey look at that cliche.
There's probably gonna be cowboys everywhere, and I'm like, there are, I do admit, there are people that believe they're cowboys that live in Texas that aren't cowboys at all, but there aren't any actual cowboys in Texas. Sorry to break your hopes and feelings about what Texas is like, but it's not a Western. It's not. It's hot. That's about it.
I lived in Austin for a short period of time, and I gotta say that I did not encounter a single what you would call stereotypical Texan. I spent almost a full year in Austin, and no such thing. Sorry.
But it wouldn't be a Big Bang Theory show. It wouldn't be a Chuck Lorre show without including those cliches and getting them wrong. I mean, You watch The Big Bang Theory, and it's got, the stereotypes just abound. And I won't get into the cultural and sort of racial ones, but even just the cliches about nerd culture. You watch these guys playing Halo in one of the earlier episodes, and the way they're holding the controllers and like rattling them all around, and like, nobody plays games like that. Come on, you would be the worst player ever if you were playing like that with your No, you're holding your controller still. You are focusing intently, and you're not standing there shouting at each other.
If you're playing Mario Kart, you're sitting there shouting at each other, but that's a completely different game.
Well, a Wii game where you're moving the remote around, yeah. And actually, my mom, I always laughed hysterically when my mom would try to play a game like Mario Brothers on my old Nintendo, because if she wanted Mario to jump farther, she'd actually move the controller. She gets have parents that did that. They'd be like, "No, get over there." It's like, no.
I mean, I used to do that while I was 7, But then when I turned 8, I was like, oh, hey,
This-
I now have the ability to logically understand what's going on.
I always found that hilarious. She would also try to slam on an imaginary brake in the car when she was teaching me how to drive, so I don't know what's going on there, but anyway. Yeah, so I'm interested in this show. I'm interested in this young Sheldon show, but we'll see. I mean, I hope it's not just sort of the... I mean, his upbringing as described in the show, in the current show, is just described as, like, miserable. Like, he was a miserable kid living in this abusive household. So it's weird. It's a weird premise for a show. Well, we'll have to see where they go with it. I hope they don't sort of, like, retcon stuff in, but...
Well, I'm pretty confident that's what they're going to do, and I'm pretty confident they're going to do it pretty horribly. I'm just saying, it's. I don't think it's going to last more than 2 seasons. I don't even think it'll last more than 1 season, but I think they'll try and force it for a second season, like with kind of what they did with Joey, is like, hey, we tried this one approach and it totally didn't work, so let's go more stereotypical and more like, a textbook Hollywood, and maybe that'll work. And then, oh, hey, it doesn't work either.
I think you might be underestimating the Big Bang Theory hardcore fans a little bit, because since there are surprisingly quite a few people that actually really like that show that might go out of their way to continue to make sure that any spin-offs or prequels also go successfully. It probably won't work, but they'll probably try.
Well, if there's enough diehard fans for the show that it has a successful run, I mean, all power to them, whatever. I'll watch it. If I like it, I'll keep watching. If not, but The Big Bang Theory, I was such a hardcore fan for the first few seasons. And then I got tired of it. I've actually been enjoying the most recent season a lot more than I have any of the ones from about 5 through to 9. I just found the writing got so trite and cliched, and the acting... I am so sick of scenes starting off with people in a car and being like, thanks for driving me to the airport. Or, thanks for driving me to wherever we're going. Or, thanks for coming with me to do blah, 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 blah. Like, that's just lazy writing, my opinion. Like, seriously, set up the scene with something interesting and entertaining. You don't have to spoon feed me what's going on. I can see they're in a car and they're going somewhere.
Yeah,
just get
there's a reason why the fake-umentaries or the documentary style has become a little bit more popular in this day and age, is because it kind of removes a lot of that kind of stuff, and
it removes the pretense. It removes the
it makes it a little bit more organic.
Things.
Yeah, cliches and all that stuff. It kind of goes. Anyways, I'm just checking out the ratings on the show. They're not doing too well over the last few years. It's
definitely gone downhill. It's definitely gone downhill. Like I said, I have appreciated the most recent season just because I feel like the writing has improved some, and I feel like the characters have improved some. I think Raj's character still seriously needs some work. There's just, aside from the whole, oh, I can't talk to women, oh, suddenly now I can talk to women, he's had no character development whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
I think the best character arc on the show so far has been Howard. He's the only one who I look at now. And then, of course, there's Sheldon doesn't change, but Sheldon's not supposed to change. And actually, he's been changing in ways that, I don't know, he's had a pretty decent character arc, in my opinion. Howard has had a decent character arc, in my opinion. He started out as the womanizing, shameless sleazebag, and he grew and matured and, got married and now has a kid and went to space. It is very successful, and, like, I appreciated that character arc. The rest of the characters, I feel, are just... I don't even know what Penny and Leonard are doing there anymore. They're just so boring to watch. And yet, they are 2 of the 3 highest paid actors on the show. And it's not the fault of the actors. It's kind of like they've been stretched to the limits and there's nowhere left to go with them.
Yeah. And that happens. That does happen with television shows who, like, they don't really know how to evolve themselves. Like, I was thinking about this the other day with the some of the shows that, they have teens, right? And then the teens, they go off to college, and then and they don't treat that right, and then the next thing you know, that the character's back full time because of a reason that they don't really explain very well. So, whatever.
Whatever. Anyway, okay, sadly, Jamie's having some technical problems, and so she's no longer with us here, but thanks so much for joining us. Jamie, check out her channel, Jamie Catalyst. I'll have a link to it in the description down below. But also, if you have played Breath of the Wild, let us know what you think. Let us know what you think of the different mechanics, how it's differed from previous games, how it's the same as previous games, how they're bringing in new mechanics, things like that. What you think of the open world concept and the very interactive world concept. Is this a good direction for the game? Are they trying to capitalize on mechanics that aren't necessary? Do you think they should have just focused more on the classic Zelda mechanics and not tried to be so open world? Like, what do you think? I'm still formulating my opinion. I've only played for a couple hours, but I've really been enjoying it thus far, and I actually do kind of appreciate the open world stuff. I do hope that I come across some weapons soon that aren't as breakable, but then again, as I said earlier, the sort of breakable aspect of the weapons, like, it's like, oh, my club's about to break, so I'm gonna chuck it at this guy and pull out my axe. Like, I like that. It makes the combat a lot more tense and a lot more interesting to me. I thought breakable weapons would be annoying, but haven't found it thus far. The scarcity of arrows has been a thorn in my side, but that's a whole other thing. So anyway, thank you so much to Subsidian, who's always here, obviously. Thanks so much for listening. We'll talk to you soon. Hey everybody, thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It helps us out a ton when you do that. Check out this video. It's one of our favorite things that we've done so far on our channel. And here's some more stuff you might like. See the description below for links to our Sugar Bomb forum and our mods on Nexus Mods.